a simulation. I'm actually being serious. We're living in a simulation right now. This is not reality. What you think of as reality is a simulation. Some of you have maybe seen Elon Musk talk about this, and it's an intriguing talk, and it turned me on to having many conversations with my friends and doing a lot of research, and I've come to the conclusion that we are living in a simulation. And I hope by the end of this speech, you will entertain the possibility of thinking that we may be living in a simulation as well. This is how the solar system works. You have the Earth, and everything rotates around it. You have the Moon, Mercury, Venus, the Sun. It all rotates around the Earth. This is common sense. Or so it was, until Galileo came around. And this common sense thought that everything rotated around the Earth was flipped on its head. If you looked at somebody before Galileo and said, hey, I think that bright thing in the sky, that's actually what everything rotates around, they would laugh at you and call you an idiot, because that was just a fact. That's not how the world worked. But I'm not telling you this to give you a history lesson. I'm telling you this just to maybe open up your mind a little bit here and think about the possibility that our world is not as it is. Now I will give you a history lesson. 40 years ago, there was a game called Pong. And this was the technological advancement. It was two bars that bounced around a ball. It's very simple, but at the time it was not. And then in 2001, The Sims came around. And for those of you that remember The Sims, it was a revolutionary game. You were able to actually control somebody's life. They could get hungry, sad, happy, emotional, tired, and you actually had to take care of these characters. And now we're in an age of augmented reality and virtual reality. I can strap on goggles and play basketball with the greatest basketball player that has ever lived, LeBron James, as we all know. I can stand atop the Empire State Building and look over Manhattan and all of its glory and actually see the windows. For those of you that have tried virtual reality, it's amazing. And we've come this far in 40 years. We can predict weather patterns. This is something that we all take for granted. It's actually quite phenomenal. We can predict what weather is coming at any given time with a decent amount of accuracy. And this has all happened in 40 years. So let's fast forward 10,000 years. If we stay at the same technological advancement rate, even if we decline, which I believe we're going to continually increase, but even if we decline, in 10,000 years, we will be able to replicate ourselves. You can see it right now. We're replicating limbs, organs, stem cells. In 10,000 years, we will be able to quite literally replicate ourselves. Not Tupac with a hologram, but a literal simulation. And if we're able to recreate ourselves, then we'll recreate our worlds and the objects around us, the worlds that we live in. And if we're able to recreate those, we're going to bring back our ancestors. The Rosa Parks, the Martin Luther Kings, the Abraham Lincolns of the world, so we could walk beside them. And now at this point, we have billions of simulations running throughout the world. And then it gets to a point where our simulations have gained intelligence, and they're now creating simulations. So let's take this back a step. This is where it got confusing. The idea that in 10,000 years we will be able to replicate ourselves is believable. I'm sure many of you in this room would agree that the notion of replicating ourselves in 10,000 years isn't that far out. But how does that mean that we are living in a simulation right now and we're not living in base reality? And this is where you need to take that leap. If in 10,000 years we are able to recreate ourselves, who is to say that right now we are not that first simulation? And base reality was before us. They created us as the first simulation, and only now are we getting to the point as the first simulation where we're able to create another simulation. And this is where my friends jump in after a few beers, and they say, Rich, the argument here is that we're not lucky enough to live in a simulation. That's not us. That's not what's happening. We're in base reality. And what I would implore you to think about, and my answer to that is always, it's not that we're not lucky enough to live in a simulation. The truth of the matter is, we may not be lucky enough to live in base reality. Mrs. Toastmaster.